Hey friends, Nerdy Pastor back, and wanted to give you a heads up, a preview of some book reviews that I will be doing in the next coming weeks. I'm excited to let you know that I'll have some time to actually really get after some books. I typically read regularly every day, but it's just chipping away. It's just chipping away, chapters here, chapters there, book here, book there. That's just the reality of normal life for probably everybody. But if you are a pastor and your church does love you, they typically give you a week off for a reading Sabbath, and it's really a blessing. It's still work, but it is a blessing. I think as a pastor, you typically really want to study and prepare yourself and be a blessing to your church, and so you want to read things that are going to be helpful, not just for you, but for them, not just for you, but for your family, how you lead your family, how you lead and shepherd and preach and teach in the church. So mine's coming up. Mine's coming up next week, actually, and so I've put together kind of a reading plan that will be, I think, hopefully beneficial to me, and then beneficial to the people I serve and to my family as well, as I hope to become a better father, a better dad as I study. But I've chosen. I guess I've got 6 books here that I'm going to really drive through, and probably only one of them I will not finish because it's really more of I'm going to read parts of it over the next couple of weeks, but I will not be finishing it. But I thought I would just show those books to you and then let you know which books I'm going to do some reviews on coming up, just to hopefully get more reviews of certain books out there. That are really good and have been lauded by many people. So I'm going to go through 4 of the more practical books, one highly philosophical book on anthropology, and then the last 2 have just come out in the last few years, that people need to buy these books, these last 2 especially, and I'm going to really work hard at reading through those 2 volumes, and it's a 7-volume series, but only 2 have come out so far. The third one's about to come out next month. So I'm going to go ahead and try to fight through and get through those next week. But the first one, of course, is the well-known, though well-known in the sense of people that read and people that know the Doctrine of Providence, but by William Swan Plummer, Jehovah Jireh, the Doctrine of Providence, a treatise on Providence. Read half of it so far. I'm gonna finish it next week, and probably, as many would say, one of the best treatments on Providence as a whole, from a very biblical and pastoral persuasion. There's going to be some theology concerns historically. He'll treat a little bit here and there, but he's really focusing on what is the Bible teaching on providence and what pastoral concerns can we meet with this. And it's an excellent volume, and I love William Swan Plummer, so I'm gonna review that one. The next one is J.I. Packer's famous Keep in Step with the Spirit. I've always read different chunks of this book, but I've never read it all the way through, and it just got reprinted by Crossway in this really handsome volume here. And so I'm going to fight my way through this whole thing, and I love Packer. I've been meaning to read that one all the way through, and so I'm going to be doing that one. I'll probably be doing a book review on that one in the coming weeks. The highly philosophical book is the book by Paul Ricoeur, called Oneself as Another, and I'll be starting this book. I've been meaning to read this book, obviously a challenging one, known as a moral philosopher, known as a philosophical kind of giant of the 20th century. And this is one of his most famous books of his many books. And I'll be reading that book actually in a reading group starting next week. And hopefully by early next year, I'll have that book finished and give a review on that from a Presbyterian Reformed kind of persuasion of the strengths and weaknesses of that book, in my view. And then a very simple to read book, but again, a book I've read kind of different chapters of at different times, but never just read all the way through. It's really the bestseller, Robert McGee's A Search for Significance. And I won't probably do a review on that one, but that is just a highly practical book on understanding how the doctrines and the teachings of the scriptures really meet practical concerns and practical needs and practical problems in life, in my life, in your life. And I think, again, why is this book sold 2-3 million copies? No offense to Mr. McGee here, but it's because the doctrines of the scripture are so powerfully relevant and necessary for our lives. And he does a great job of teasing out that importance in this book, and I'm really looking forward to reading that and reading the practical ways that he shows the relevancy and the necessity of these doctrines in our lives as they work through the power of the Spirit to change us. So I'm looking forward to reading that book. Again, not going to do a review on that one, but we'll be doing that book in my reading Sabbath. And then lastly, the two giant books written by a giant author, but not very well known even in Reformed circles, because his works have not been published. But he was, again, as many have called it, the blurb to end all blurbs, the acknowledgement to end all acknowledgments, is that Jonathan Edwards said it was the best book second to the Bible. If you if you get that kind of support and acknowledgement from Jonathan Edwards, you're probably going to probably want to pick this up. So it is none other than Petrus van Maastricht's Theoretical Practical Theology. Okay, and this came out 2018. Again, this is written, way back when, 17th century, but it's been handsomely translated, retypeset. It's got really helpful introductions. It's got a short essay on his preaching method. It's just fascinating. It's not just so helpful, but it's just a fascinating thing to read. You're reading his introduction of his life. You're reading his method on preaching, and you're getting into his dogmatic, practical pastoral theology. And what makes, again, this so useful is how useful it is for people in the pew and how useful it is for pastors, though there's much there for scholars to be interested in as well. But it's going to be, I'm going to go after these two volumes, the first one on Prolegomena, okay, and the second one kind of continuing Prolegomena way, but called Faith in the Triune God. Notice he focuses on the Trinity there first, and then gets into the decrees, the covenant of works, sin, volume 3, and moves into that. And it's a 7-volume series, so this is going to be exciting. I've been wanting to dive into these. I bought these books last year, and I know it's like, you know what, I want to read right through them. I'm going to take a week to do that. So next week, I think in 3 or 4 days, I'm going to try to knock those out and read right through them. And I've already started it a little bit, and they're already outstanding. So he follows a method, this 4-tier method, basically from dogma to exegesis, or exegesis to dogma. Then he goes into what's called elenctic or apologetic theology, where he defends the faith against papists and maybe in some places Lutherans, of course, and Socinians and others, Anabaptists. And then he moves on into the pastoral element. And so it's very, very helpful to think through that way, that there's 4 ways in his method where he's trying to show the truth in both dogmatic, biblical, elenctic, and pastoral lights. And so I thought, that's a perfect book to read for a reading Sabbath. So hopefully next Thursday or Friday, I know it's Thanksgiving next week, but hopefully next week sometime, I can take 10 or 15 minutes and give some reviews of each volume of Van Maastricht's works there for you all to consider, and for me to commend that to you. I think Reformation Heritage Books will probably have a really good sale as the 3rd volume comes out, and probably sell all 3 of them for like $75 like they typically do. You got to get it. You got to get it, especially if you're in ministry, and hold to the Reformed persuasion of any kind. You probably should consider getting those books. All right, that's my preview for the reading Sabbath, and for some reviews I'll be doing. I'll probably be doing one on Plummer's Jehovah Jireh, Packer's Keeping in Step with the Spirit, and Van Maastricht's Volume 1 and Volume 2 of his Theoretical Practical Theology. All right, signing off.